Sweet. So, integrating home alarms and Home Assistant. So I'm probably a bit of a newbie at this kind of thing. This is my second Wellington Home Automation meetup visit, and basically this was a really good reason for me to get on with finishing a Home Assistant project that I'd started. So I said to Jeff, I'm going to do this talk, and that means I'm going to do a whole lot of work between last meetup and now to actually get it finished.
So, for example, if you want to finish a project, send me the talk.
It's a great motivator.
Do a talk and then you're finished.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, it's called talk driven.
Talk-driven development. Yeah, no, that's definitely how it is. So who am I? Again, my name is Renner, and I'm the kind of person who needs to know how things work. So from an early age, I was the kind of kid that was pulling VCRs apart. Unfortunately, I'm the kind of person who, when they put that kind of thing back together, there's like 5 screws and a bunch of components left over. So I definitely wouldn't claim to be very successful at it. And I guess in that note, I'm definitely not an electronics guru, and I've just got enough knowledge to be dangerous. So I guess part of the theme for the talk is that perhaps even if you've not done a lot of this, what I did I thought was quite an interesting way to sort of learn about different parts of this and Home Assistant and sort of how you can integrate that with things that perhaps weren't designed to be integrated with something like Home Assistant, or don't really conform to any kind of IoT standard or best practice, what do you want to call it. And my day job is looking after IT for Help Pizza, which has nothing to do with anything Home Assistant or electronics related at all, really.
I'm a little awkward about the pizzas.
Next time, we'll do better, it's all right.
On sponsorship.
I don't have budget, but we'll see about that. So anyway, a bit of an agenda. So this all came about for me because I got burgled, and that sucked. And so the next day I borrowed a friend's electrical wholesale account at Stewart's on Cuba Street, and basically went and got the first home alarm I could find. And after I did that, I was like, oh shit, it's 2018, I probably should be able to turn this on and off with my phone. Like, maybe I should have thought about it before I bought something. But anyway, so
is that the exact alarm system you have?
that is the exact alarm system that I have.
I used to work as an engineer for them.
So this is going to be really embarrassing when this guy points all the things out to me that I've done wrong and could have done better. But yeah, so a bit of an agenda. Why would you do this? Why would you spend your time trying to integrate with something that doesn't want to be integrated with? And I guess covers off some of the benefits of doing it, and perhaps reasons that you wouldn't necessarily buy some Xiaomi products as opposed to doing it this way. Also a bit of a backgrounder on, I guess, what I found while I was going through this process. What's out there in terms of non-IoT alarms that you might find you arrive at a house with one, and how do I deal with this? Then a bit about hardwired integration. So if it hasn't got an Ethernet port, what do you do? And finally, sort of, I guess, bit of a wrap up with where I ended up, which is basically getting rid of the first alarm and buying one with an Ethernet port so I can do things properly. But yeah, and feel free just to throw questions out, anything like that. So why would you want to integrate your home alarm with Home Assistant? And the first reason for me is that my cat does not give a shit about pet-proof PIR sensors. And so in the first week, he has managed to swing off the curtains multiple times, and that sets the sensors off. So I really don't need somebody like that to send me a bill every time that happens. The second
walk away up the path all the way to the house.
Yeah. The second reason was that I had, I don't know, it was bad luck or just maybe the app didn't like me, but the app that came with the alarm is outsourced and therefore shit. So it looked to me like it was using sort of MQTT over HTTP.
I left after that.
So we're not sure. That's what it looked like to me. I couldn't tell. It was a bit inconsistent. It could be anything from just not built very well, Internet Online being a bit shady. And I kind of looked at the app and thought, actually, that looks a lot like Home Assistant. How hard could it be? So as we've just sort of established, the monitoring might be a little bit of a waste of money depending on your use case. In my case, the sort of vendor provided spend your $150 get a free app thing was a bit buggy and didn't really work as well as I wanted to. Another reason is that you don't have to trust somebody else's cloud service with the security of your home if that's a priority to you. And I guess one of the really big ones is that a lot of insurance companies will give you a discount if your home alarm has been professionally installed.
Question, did you get the non-monitored discount or the monitored discount?
I didn't get quite that far into it, but is there a difference?
I asked them about self-monitoring,
Yeah.
and my insurance company, which is Vero, won't give me an additional discount for self-monitoring. They only give me an additional discount for professional monitoring.
Right.
Despite that, I'm personally a little more invested in the safety of my
Yeah,
house.
exactly. I've driven
pay
more.
yourself or like
Jeff
You joke, I actually thought about that, and they're getting everyone who has home alarms that's self-monitored to create a shell company that they can route through and like brand badge an app and you can say it's a professionally monitored service.
There you go.
Which would be true because there's no standards or regulations. So.
Wham,
co-op on
co-op monitoring thing. There you go, business idea. So for me, I kind of thought, well,
not a silly idea.
for me,
Everything go to the Slack channel.
Pay yourself.
So I'm looking for VC funding, 2 million.
so for me, that kind of pointed me away a little bit from Jamie and the other options, and I'm saying this a little bit sort of tongue-in-cheek because I'd already made a decision before I got to this part of the process. And last reason is that Home Assistant obviously has a number of components that you can use. It's nice, it's relatively easy, and perhaps a little bit easier than building your own full stack alarm.
Hey, mate, how alarming is an industry-leading iOS integration? Thank you very much.
Ask Jethro to show you what he did, which is incredible, but also like who's got that kind of time.
Incredibly not good idea.
And in terms of a bit of background on non-IoT alarms, so this is just based on my sort of very cursory look around the market. It seems that if you manage to get the wholesale pricing, which is a bit of a challenge, I might admit, you're potentially going to spend anywhere between sort of $300 and $600 extra for a kit. So that's your alarm panel, your keypad, a siren, strobe, and maybe some sensors.
This is NZ.
Yeah, that's New Zealand dollars. A lot of them actually won't sell directly to consumers, which sucks, but that's how it is. You will find though that if you want to rock into an electrical wholesaler, if you ask them really, really nicely, they'll probably give you the electrician's pricing and give you the kit because they're a business, they like to sell things. Obviously, if you do buy one and get it installed by a professional, that's going to be really expensive, especially because it's the kind of thing that most people would probably find too hard.
Fun fact, we get constant emails from electricians who do not know how to install a colour-coded diagram.
Yes, exactly. So, and that's the other thing is that because it is the kind of thing that happens to have fallen into electricians to do, unless you get somebody who's really good, perhaps somebody who's got really good data experience or wiring that's not necessarily just power, you may find that actually you're going to do a better job yourself just because, like most things, if you're invested in it, you're probably going to do it better. So my option was to do it myself and find a friendly electrician / security professional, if that's it. I went with the Arrowhead Elite range, which is provided by the New Zealand company that this fine gentleman used to work for, and actually ended up upgrading to a better model once I had the first one because I got so hooked on doing this kind of thing. Just not the time for a phone call.
Like your alarm is going on.
But there are also some big other brands, so Bosch and Paradox, which I think are both international.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bosch, Paradox is South African, right?
Yeah.
But a note to that, and I was just telling Roman about that, the later firmwares of Paradox, because I've got a Paradox system, as of version 4, they actively block you from self-monitoring. It has to go through their cloud service. So there's people actually downgrading their firmware on their IP modules to get access back to their system.
Okay, that sucks.
Which is fun, but
Yeah.
great if you've already got one.
I would say one of the really good things about Arrowhead was that if you want to pretend you're an installer and get all the information, you just go to a form, fill your email in, and they send you a login. No questions asked.
Yeah.
So and all of a sudden you get access to all the relevant documentation. You can send them an email asking nicely for things, and they say thank you for your email. Here is the information. So
one brand that you don't have out there is this DAS NX stuff.
oh yes.
Everywhere. Like 3 houses we looked at, like all had this DAS NX 8.
So that means they're probably giving the kits or the newer house builders
I
discounts.
think it's like a Chubb system.
Oh, okay.
Selling it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess when I looked at the ones that I'd heard of, and I'd never heard of that, but I'm sure it's probably
Yeah, there's heaps of
popular.
There's German brand.
Yeah, our office has a Bosch one because I know they do a bunch of bigger sort of office-based systems, which presumably have ways to integrate that probably.
The Bosch ones are fairly popular on the OpenHead site as well, probably Home Assistant as well.
There's a fair few power edges around too. I know my house had power edge when I moved to DSC. I've seen a few like our office is DSC power edge and a few others floating around.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I would definitely recommend the Arrowhead range, except for that app. The instructions were colour coded, so like you can't really go wrong. And New Zealand-based office and support. And have I got this right? They're built in Israel.
No, the partner company is Israel, which is Crow.
Crow, yeah. So I did get that right.
Yeah.
And so as long as the Mossad are not part of your threat model, that's probably absolutely fine. And for me, it took about a weekend to install it and a couple months more to actually get it to hook up to Home Assistant, but no soldering required. So it's fine for software guys like me that really don't do solder very well. So if you have let's say an Arrowhead or one of the other alarms that, like maybe it's a Paradox one that doesn't have an IP module, or the IP module is really unfriendly and does not like you doing things, what do? Where am I going? And obviously, this also applies to if it's old. IP hasn't always been a thing, and if it does, I've seen some that are pretty shit. So basically, if you want to do a really basic job, you need to find a way to arm and disarm it, and also to keep an eye on what's happening with it. Before you start, I definitely recommend trying to get hold of the programming manual. It's probably a case of pushing the proverbial uphill if you can't get one. One thing I did find quite handy was, despite the fact that Arrowhead has great documentation online, as long as you get a login, because so many of these kind of things are, I guess, rebranded from an original manufacturer that sells it out to a number of different brands. If you just start Googling the names on the board itself, you'll find that potentially some other companies overseas, say in the US, are much more free with their programming manuals, but because a lot of the stuff is outsourced, it's all exactly the same.
The board that you got would be manufactured in New Zealand.
Oh, okay. But from plans that are...
No, built in-house.
Designed in-house as well?
Yes.
Oh, that's why it's good. If you don't have to do support for it. The other thing, for a software guy like me, when I see a button that says reset, I assume that's going to mean like remove all the bad things I've just done to this and start me from a clean scratch. That's not the case with the ones that I used. Reset means wipe the firmware, and unless you've got the dongle to put the firmware back on, you're really up shit creek without a paddle. And obviously the usual rules of electricity apply. Don't get fried, please, because I gave this talk. So this was the board that I started with, the Arrowhead ESL. I found out, built in New Zealand. Seemed pretty solid. I didn't really have any weird behaviour with it, like the documentation seemed accurate. It's got, obviously, connections to power, keypad, outputs, inputs, tamper. They're all nicely labelled, easy to understand. The documentation images were all right, that was cool. And if you're familiar with how alarms do things, your inputs are basically things the alarm monitors to make sure your house isn't being burgled, and so you have your PIRs, infrared sensors, read switches for things like doors, smoke alarms, glass break sensors, but the one we're interested in is the key switch.
Is that missile control?
Yeah, no, so that was the most nuclear missile looking key switch I could find on Google image search. And the reason that key switch is obviously handy is because that's typically an input designed to change whether the alarm is on or off. And the best thing with that is that the key switch input is also known as a Raspberry Pi relay board. So if your alarm can take a key switch, it can also be controlled by a relay board. And for me, as somebody who's never done this before, this was the sort of easiest way I could do this with this close to no Raspberry Pi GPIO knowledge. The board is $41 from Nice Gear. It is incredibly easy to use. They give you a bunch of Python scripts, which for a PHP person like me were easy enough to bully into doing what I wanted. And the best thing is they have a physical indicator on, like a light, on the board as to what state the relay is in, so that you know whether you are being an idiot or the alarm's being an idiot. And so how I got that to work was to connect one of the inputs that I wasn't using on the alarm to the relay, and then program the alarm to have that input as a key switch, and then to have it so that one input, when it was activated, would arm the alarm, and another one would deactivate it. Some will let you do things like if the key switch is in a certain position, it's armed, if you move it, it's disarmed, but that didn't work for me because I had to keep this alarm sort of friendly for people who didn't want to use the app or visitors and that kind of thing. And as I said, the relay board comes with a handy Python script which allows different ways to turn the relay on and off, so I just basically borrowed that. And one gotcha is that I did find that I needed to, if I was toggling it to make the alarm arm or disarm, I would need to actually get it to hold and wait for about a couple hundred milliseconds to actually make the alarm catch up and realise that something had happened, which took a lot longer than you'd expect to work that out. So that's arming and disarming, basically having a script on a Raspberry Pi that makes the relay go on and off, and therefore changes the value in the alarm for input, making it go arm or disarm. And in terms of state, so finding out is the alarm armed, disarmed, or is it going off, it turns out that outputs aren't just for flashing lights and loud noises, and you can potentially, depending on your alarm, program them to pulse depending on different things that happen. So I luckily had a couple of outputs spare, so I basically programmed the spare outputs to one to pulse if it was armed, one to pulse if it was disarmed, and if they pulse together that means the alarm's going off and probably should be notified about it. I then wired that into the GPI opens on the Pi, and you can use the built-in pull-up, pull-down resistors on the in the GPI functionality, so you don't even have to do add a resistor. You can just wire it straight in. So again, no soldering, nice and easy. I then wrote a simple PHP script because, of course, PHP is what I know, and so therefore that should be bullied into doing all sorts of hardware-based things that you should never do with PHP, using Michael Kosanai's PHP library, which you probably haven't heard of, but is actually quite good. And so basically, nice simple loop saying is the state the same as what it was before, and then just a bunch of control blocks for if they're both low, it's alarm. If it's got low and high, it's armed, otherwise disarmed. And then, but you can't see is writing a state change to a file, which is then picked up by Home Assistant. So what I did to actually sort of bring it all together was, so what I did was use the file sensor component. I'm not sure what the exact vernacular for Home Assistant is, to basically monitor the. Thank you. To monitor the. Definitely, always need more beer. The state of the alarm that was being written to that file, and I'm sure there are better ways to do that, but that seemed like the best way just to get started. I also used then a command line switch to actually make it control the alarm. So one command to turn it on, one command to turn it off, and then the built-in Home Assistant iOS integration for telling my phone that something had happened, and that basically ends up looking very basic and nice and easy.
Did you contemplate using OpenHab versus Home Assistant?
No, so I actually had never heard of OpenHab until I read bio for this fine man's talk a few home assistants, home automation meetups. Yeah, there's too many homes in this. Thank you. There's too many homes in this meetup. So I had no concept it existed. So there's probably every chance that my decisions about how to build this have been heavily influenced by the way the Home Assistant sort of guides you down a particular path of doing things.
Actually, with the way that you have done it, I don't think you could have done it with OpenHab. I don't think there is such a thing as a file monitor.
So what would you do instead?
You would use MQTT.
Yeah, exactly. So
and then you would talk to both.
Yeah, and so that's basically what I've subsequently ended up doing. So I built that, it worked, it did the job, but no more. And so I got a bit annoyed after a couple of months in that there was no sort of per zone or area info, so you couldn't see what was going on in one area of the house. And so this is the problem. As soon as you start something like this, there's no input. So you start it and you're like, oh, but it'd be nice if I did this. And then like,
cocaine's free.
Exactly. So it's so you know you live and learn. So no per zone or area info. Also, the big one was that if you turn the Pi off and the alarm's alarm, you turn it back on again, it goes, oh, it's disarmed now. So no ability to request a status update as far as I could sort of work out. Maybe there is a way, but I don't know. If the Pi was off when a state change occurred. If for whatever reason I decided to add, I don't know, smoke alarms or glass break or that kind of thing to the alarm, I would probably run out of inputs or outputs quite quickly. Another way to do it would be potentially to try and implement the keypad protocol that's up and down the keypad bus, but this man could do it. I have literally no chance of ever being able to do that, and I've seen sort of friends' attempts to do that for other
Throw it away, just make it on-screen keyboard. Seriously?
No. So I've seen other people trying to do that with things like heat pumps and stuff, and I can't even imagine how hard that is. So what I did was basically solve the problem with my wallet, and went out and got the upgraded, I guess you call it, panel from the same company, which meant I could keep the keypad, which is cool. It has onboard Ethernet, so promising. And I did do a little bit of research this time and determined that it has a web interface to control the alarm as opposed to.
So, question around voltages. So, are these 12 volts feeding the sensors, and then they're just 5 volt on the GPIOs? Like, what is the?
Yes, as far as I'm aware.
So 12 volt power, but you've got.
There's two different.
5 volt, yeah?
I think there's two different lugs you can hook into on the board, depending on from memory.
Because I'm kind of contemplating doing something similar with my alarm system, but rather than give a shit about the control board because I just throw that away.
Yeah.
What I'm kind of thinking of doing
how do you power the?
Yeah, no, just straight into the GPIO pins on a USB 32 with some pull-ups in front of them.
Yeah. From memory, the sensors I think are 12 volt, but if 5 volt is a thing, there's probably every chance you can import 5 volt sensors.
Yeah.
If you want another approach, and I was also speaking to Roman about this before, connected with a K. It's an open source Raspberry Pi.
Connected security.
And it's
or is this different?
No, this is essentially an open source alarm panel that uses existing PIRs, and they just replace the board with something that looks a lot like that, but it's a Raspberry Pi. And it talks natively to smart things, and I believe natively.
That's connected security. It's not a Raspberry Pi. It's an ESP8266.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm thinking of doing, but you don't need to pay so much to do that.
So because I'm a glutton for punishment, I decided that I didn't want to go down the easy route of just building an alarm out in PHP or whatever it might be, and having a nice digital control panel. I thought, right, I'm going to actually make this work. So yeah, like I said, this has a web interface for the its IP functionality, which actually can control the alarm. That's something that I found with the IP modules for the previous one, was that they would allow you to configure monitoring and things like that, but you couldn't actually turn the alarm on and off with the IP modules, so that was useless. Unfortunately though, hopefully we can play this.
Their official app can't harm the sun?
Yes. No, the official app can, it just doesn't. So you push a button, nothing happens. Which is not very useful. It would work probably once in 5 times for me, and I would admit I'm not a patient person, so that didn't really pass the sort of QA tick for me. So I was having a look at the control interface, and I thought, this is this highlights as I move around the house, so it's sort of live. That means it's got something like a WebSocket or something really cool underneath it. No, it turns out that the way that it does live is just by sending an absolute shitload of requests sort of every half a second to determine what's going on.
I was 19 years old at the time when I built that.
You built that? It works remarkably well.
The data that's going across it is actually the exact same data you see in the keypad bus, just FYI.
Right, okay, that's really interesting. So,
lock you to a little room. You might call it version 3.
No, and so I guess the thing with that is that's definitely a way of doing it. The reason that I was disappointed was that I was hoping for something nice, like a socket that I could connect to, and then that I would be able to send stuff back and forth. And so this wasn't going to be the way to do it, but what I did find is that what it does is what they call serial over IP, which is exactly what I wanted. So a nice, very vanilla, easy for web developer to understand.
Probably the first time anyone's ever said, you know what I like? AT commands.
Yeah, but when you've come from like trying for months and months and months to bully this thing into working, this is gold. It's like hallelujah. So the ESX has a inbuilt way to talk over a socket and a list of nice and easy to understand commands that you can send back and forth, and a way to poll for status. So when you start something up, you can ask. So what I did was I built a really small PHP app to basically sit on that socket and MQTT and pass messages between the alarm, MQTT and home system. Obviously having a topic per facility, so zone, area, panel, which has the advantage of allowing sort of individual control in home system eventually. I haven't got that far. So for things like you could bypass a particular zone, you can do things like this integration allows you to get memory of the alarm, so the last X number of events, which is actually quite handy if you wanted to know why it's gone off because of a battery fault or something like that. I've put it on GitHub. Again, it's a bit of a work in progress. The monitoring side of things does work, I think, pretty well, but the control side is getting there. I didn't quite manage to get that in a month. But have a look if you're interested. I definitely appreciate any input, feedback. If you've got an alarm like this, we can definitely try and make it a bit more abstract. And I think if I just make this a little smaller, I can show you. Here's the exit. So that's what it looks like now without the control side of things. Each of those is just individual sort of components of the alarm. So panel will be ready, not ready, battery fault, etc., etc. We've got 2 areas, so whether we're just arming one of the rooms or the whole house. And then I've got a small house, so only 3 zones. And if there was somebody at home moving around at the moment, those would be going between open and closed, but it looks like there is nobody home, so that's not going to happen.
What does it mean by ready?
Ready, so the alarm has a concept of, I think it's really open and not ready, and that basically means if somebody's moving around, you can't set it. So that was kind of a way for me just to basically surface that in here so that I know if I hit the button and nothing happens, that's why. I don't know what other circumstances that might come up in as well, so I don't know if, for instance, if there's a fault of some sort, it would then stay and not ready and not let you arm it, or that kind of thing. So at the moment, it's kind of passing all the events that can possibly come out of the alarm into this so that I can get a feel for what happens. And that's been pretty reliable so far. So as a new user of MQTT, it's awesome, it's easy.
No, that's good.
That was like, oh, pain.
No, it does literally make things easy.
Yeah. And so I guess in summary, takeaways from me is that alarm integration, even if you're doing it in a horribly manual way like me, doesn't necessarily require a lot of electronics experience. It just requires you to have mates that do, and people that you can sort of lean on and be like, why does this not work? And then like you're doing something dumb. I personally found it a really good way to sort of, or a good project to use to get to know the GPO and the Pi really a bit better, and also a good talk-driven development way to actually get into home automation and have something that's really useful. But one piece of advice I would have is that don't be like me and actually research the panel before you go and buy it in a hurry.
Just replace it with a $2 ESP.
Seriously. Alright, December we've got Christmas lights and ESPs from Joel.
Definitely like to see how somebody gets on with that. I've seen a few examples, but I've never actually gotten as far as thinking about doing it.
They're pretty good. I mean, they don't have Ethernet, so you have to use wireless, so you have to have something. But I'm assuming you have a wireless access point in your house.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, exactly. So.
They have Ethernet software stack on board, you just need the hardware to enable it.
There's no Mac Fizz on the 8266.
No, not the 82, but 32 does.
The 32 does, yes. The cheap $2 modules don't.
Yeah.
Does the company Arrowhead in Auckland, do they have their own software team for building that kind of thing, or is it sort of?
Yes, it's very small, and they're partnered with a company that does contract manufacturing, so they share a lot of resources.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Oh, it's quite cool. There is actually a company in New Zealand building this kind of
There's
thing.
another one as well, there's Micron down in Christchurch.
Oh, okay.
Which also do a lot.
Who's the company that does the HRV panels? I tried to get them to give me some schematics of the chips so I can research them, and they were with
The partner company that I mentioned, so QuickCircuit, they manufacture the HRV panels.
Yeah, they would not give me anything. But it was like, talk to the HRV company, they're like, you need to talk to this company. I did, rang them, can I talk to whoever did this new, because they get the new touch panel installed last year. And I was like, well, I just want to read out the crap from it, so something useful. All I need is like an RxT, tell me the pin out of this chip, and I'll figure it out from there. And they're like, no, I want to touch chip.
If you find them, you can ask them why they call it burnt toast.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's like burnt toast mode and turns everything up to like 100% for like an hour or whatever it is.
Some engineer thought that was hilarious. I think it's probably the only answer to that was
When my girlfriend saw that, she's like, really? That's part of their professional product? I'm like, yeah. That's so much shit, isn't it?
Awesome. Anyway.
Awesome, well thanks so much,
Thank you.
Matt.